up, ladies and gentlemen? Bring the music down here. Chowing on some snacks before I got up to my room here. Little 32 minutes break to chow on some food and then get ready to talk about the market. How's everyone doing? Hopefully you guys had a wonderful Wednesday, December 17th. It is Wednesday, December 17th. Had some opportunities to go make some monies out there. Some good opportunities to make money on stocks that reported earnings today, like Jabo or Jabo, however you want to say it. Micron moving quite a bit in the after hours over here as we speak, so we'll take a look into that stock a little bit. Also prepare for some names that are reporting tomorrow pre-market, and get ready for a CPI print that's coming out tomorrow pre-market at 8:30 a.m. So lots of things to talk about. Well, not a lot of things to talk about, but some things to talk about here. I got breadcrumbs all over my table now from the sandwich I was chewing on before coming back to my room. But as I was saying, a couple things to talk about, a couple things to show you what I'm looking at for on the watch list tomorrow. Last night on stream, we talked about MDLN. That was a pretty good name overall. That stock started ripping off to the upside. Can't really pull up MDLN on TradingView charts today. Now I can. Not on the 5-minute apparently, but I can on the 1-minute. But here you go. Little example of how it played out. You know, you could have bought it at $35 and the stock basically closed at 41. Apparently in the after hours even going all the way up to $42. So this stock has been going pretty crazy. Shout out to an IPO name. Recently a lot of the IPOs have been pretty sucky, but this IPO has been monstrous, and we called this out last night on stream. To those of you who came in, you probably had a good day with this one. Also managed to get a nice little short on Oracle today, so that was a quick little scalp for me. So I had a green day. Good to have a green day on the board after struggling to get back into the market groove. So always a good day to go home green, or I guess I'm trading from home now. I'm not trading from an actual office. So always a good day to get a nice little green day on the markets. Boost your little self-confidence up a little bit, and also get you back into that trading groove. Ever since I had to take a little bit of a break from trading, I feel like I've completely stepped back and I haven't really been able to get back into it. But now, banking that little green day, one baby step at a time, compound one step at a time, and then get there to the future, right? Lots of stuff, so like I mentioned earlier, so why don't we just show you guys what the watch list is at the moment. Some of the names that are reporting today pre-market, well, at least only one reporting after hours at Micron, with some of the names that reported pre-market. Some of the names that might report tomorrow pre-market. Apparently something going on with Trump, and speaking about something going on with Trump, possibly even worth keeping an eye on some of these stocks over here that I'm just going to quickly throw in on my watch list. Tilray, MSOS, and so on, because apparently tomorrow he's supposed to give the legalization, or at least a speech about, or something related to marijuana legalization. So Tilray and wheat stocks can be added to the watch list really quickly. RTX and AVAV, because drone names, and RTX obviously a defense name, something going on with Venezuela and oil seizures and so on, so something to keep an eye out over there. Stocks moving out right now. MDLN, the IPO that we talked about, usually there are some good day 2 opportunities on IPO, so we'll take a look at that. CRDO and Oracle in the data center sector. Oracle struggling, even though what I thought was a good news today, or was it a bad news? Was it a pulling back away from Oracle, or giving Oracle more money. I couldn't figure out what the news was exactly, but the way the market was reacting to it was clearly to the negative side, right? So Oracle dragging down the rest of the AI sector along with it, but thankfully Micron showing up and acting as a little bit of a savior for the AI sector, for the semiconductor sector first, but more so for the AI sector, because we've seen nothing but, you know, weakness, downside, some heavy weight being pulled, heavy weight being attached to the stocks, and them getting dragged down sadly because of those weights. So now that we've seen Micron kind of step in and be like, hey guys, not everything's that bad, maybe we see a little bit of a reversal back up. And then obviously your large cap stocks, and then the cryptocurrency stocks. Mainly it's gonna be actually, you know, Micron, the names in the pre-market, the weed names if the Trump event tomorrow is during market hours, and then the Venezuela event based on how things are playing out right now. President Trump is keeping the market up. Venezuela, bad news, lender withheld the 10 billion from Oracle to build out a data center. I thought, you know, they signed more, so I guess, yeah, withholding bad news overall, and that brought down Oracle quite a bit to the downside. Also brought down, you know, CRDO along with it in the same sector, and a bunch of these other sectors have been taking some residual damage, some residual hits coming in from you know, the past. The ghost of the past is coming in to haunt some of these stocks at the moment, which have been rallying for quite some time now. So keeping an eye on across the board on all of these sectors. But why don't we start off with the number one name on the board here, which is Micron. Micron coming in with the monster move in the pre-market. A lot of it's getting faded off over here. Possibly some FOMO chasers who bought it in the higher ranges now having to deal with the correction. So taking some losses on their FOMO purchasing and buying in the 240s. But we'll see if the stock is able to hold up on the pullback here, at least at the earnings anchored VWAP. I think at a quick glance we're not going to be holding above it. We're actually below it. Yes, it looks like earnings anchored VWAP would be somewhere here, and we are actually holding a little bit below the earnings anchored VWAP right now, which is sometimes seen as a negative thing, but we'll see how it plays out. There's still a lot of time left for Micron for after hours, so, you know, lots of things could happen going into tomorrow. Quickly, I want to see how Micron's earnings report actually plays out before going into what I think the chart might say and so on. So reading the earnings report really quickly, where are we? 13.64 versus 12.83 billion. Beating estimates. Obviously the company posted 4.78 versus 3.95, also beating estimates quite drastically over there for Q1. This was a revenue of a total increase of 20.5% year over year. Operating cash flow came in at 8.41 billion versus 5.738. I mean, that's a fucking great increase. Prior quarter, and 3.24 in comparable quarter last year. I mean, that's crazy. The company generated 3.9 billion of adjusted free cash flow in the quarter. Company expects to deliver exit the quarter with 12 billion in cash. Outlook: Micron sees the second quarter revenue at $18.7 billion plus or minus 400 versus estimates of 14.16. So that's a pretty big beat above estimates. Company anticipates second quarter adjusted earnings of 8.42 plus or minus 20 cents. We don't see the estimates, however, but overall that looks like you know, Micron is on a heater at the moment. Absolute upside momentum coming in from that awesome earnings report, but sadly some of that momentum had to be face checked, and then you know, anyone who got short in these areas are clearly laughing because they're making a nice little risk to reward short on that opportunity. But boy, oh boy, what an opportunity overall in Micron. The fact that with the report like that, possibly we are still looking for a little bit more upside in the AI sector before the bubble being popped and so on, right? Everyone was worried that with the way that Oracle, Nvidia, Google, Apple, how all of these stocks were pulling back at the moment. Here's a big pullback on Google. Apple breaking below some of the levels that I had on interest. Meta is below the 200-day moving average or trading around it. Microsoft's at the 200-day moving average. Amazon's right back at the 200-day moving average. So considering all of these stocks are right back into some of the key moving average levels, people were wondering, is it time to be ready for another downside move on the market? But thankfully, I'm not saying Micron's gonna come out and save the market, but potentially we'll have some opportunities. Quickly glancing at Tesla over here, Tesla, if we get below 465, potentially some opportunities, especially with how today's candle played out. Tesla has been having back-to-back upgrades on the stock, which has taken it into all-time high, back-to-back all-time highs over here today and yesterday. But after today's reaction, the fact that we broke above yesterday's high and then pushed all the way into yesterday's low and closed around yesterday's low, potentially some opportunities over there setting up on TSLA. Let me just quickly mark that as a high priority name so I don't forget that for tomorrow. 465.83 to 466 is the zone that I'm basically watching, but that inflection level 466, if the stock is not able to stay above 466 tomorrow, ideally I want to be shorting pops on this name. If we do get a pop back up because of Micron and the market pushes back higher and then Tesla pushes back higher, somewhere at today's VWAP, which is most likely yesterday's VWAP, let's go check out if I'm correct by saying that, somewhere at today's VWAP, most likely, which is yesterday's VWAP, yes, exactly. You can see how the dotted red line is exactly where the dotted yellow or orange line is. So 479.40 to 479.50, 60s. Looking to see if we get a pop into that area and then a reject from that area for a move back down. But already going into today's close, we were not able to reclaim that 470.54. We were not able to get back above that 466 area. I guess they are kind of still above 466. So you can see the idea why 466 is pretty important tomorrow. If we start getting back under that 466, some pretty good trading opportunities, potentially even a short to 460 or maybe even lower, depending on how low can we go. The market starts to playing limbo out there. How low can we go? How low can we go? Bad news. Venezuela exports oil and okay, thank you TH. Stellar report for Micron. Yes, indeed, I do agree with that one. I can't get over how good of a report it was. But now the question is, how does the stock react? So far, after the original move up, we were not even able to hold the opening range breakdown or the opening range area on this stock in the after hours. So a little bit back and forth at the moment taking place on Micron. Quickly want to go see how QQQ is reacting to this fairly well. They had a pop too. Nvidia had a pop, but Nvidia got sold right back to the downside, and some of this might be affecting Micron vice versa, right? Micron and Nvidia are in the same sector. Nvidia popping up because of Micron's earnings, but then Nvidia getting sold right back down, possibly giving some investors and some FOMO chasers a little bit of question marks and some questions to be asked for their own positions over there, especially if they chase them to the highs in the after hours. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a pullback and some dip buying opportunities into the 230 at the moment. But as I mentioned earlier, there's still a lot of time left on this day for the after hours specifically. So still anything could happen on that name over there. So we'll wait. We have to wait until whatever happens into tomorrow. Going down the watch list, the other stocks are basically names that reported today already, such as JBL or Jawbill. Pretty good original reaction in the pre-market, but then absolute 360, or I should say 180, absolute 180 back to the downside. I'm guessing most of it was just the market moving to the south side, but it did have a decent backside scalp or a long opportunity if you were looking for it. I actually did not have this on radar after a certain point in the day, so I guess that was my fault. But right here, you had a good double bottom and then a very good backside scalp, I would say somewhere in this area, so potentially worth putting that in my notes. Also want to go see how that looked in on the chart here. Yeah, look at that. Reclaims the 9 EMA. Right here is the good backside scalp. Doesn't even go back to VWAP though. It doesn't even give you the move back into VWAP. It just kind of pushes into yesterday's VWAP and then starts to stall out in there. But still, you get about a $3, $4 move for $2 risk, which is not really the greatest. So the risk to reward kind of is skewed, and that's why I was really debating as to, is this even a good trade. Like, you would have been entering long here, you end up getting maybe $4 worth of reward, and you're risking about $1.50 to $2. So 1:1, 2:1, not the best trade opportunity out there. But if you were to catch the low here, the double bottom, the fake out low, then you're really risking not even close to $1, maybe $1 depending on the spread, and you're making way more than a dollar or two. Those opportunities are much better. I think that's also a pretty good capitulation of some sorts. It's not really capitulation based on the chart and volume, but just the way the stock played out and got completely sold off, bottomed out in this area, did not manage to really start trading below 208 longer than maybe a minute at maximum. So based on that information, potentially you could have looked for a long, risk $1 to 50 cents, and then got a trade out of it. But for going into tomorrow, sorry, burping here. But going into tomorrow, Jawbill as a day 2 trade is not really as a high priority for me. Also, today's earnings report didn't react the way the previous earnings reports did, whereas it was dislocated from the market. It just did whatever the stock wanted to. This one was very correlated with the market. So if the market starts to look weak tomorrow again, chances are Jawbill might have some sort of pressure and weightage over it, and also we can clearly see that there is a lot of selling in this area, and every single pop we just get stuffed right back down. So I don't really want to be fighting the sellers in this area. If I'm interested in the long, it's gonna have to be above 237, and I just don't think that's going to come into play very soon based on today's reaction. And then to the downside, I'm not really as interested to fight the downside buyers either. We're just chopping around in a much bigger range. So for a day trader, Jawbill is really on the most non-interesting side for us. GIS, we were talking about this yesterday. It actually managed to push into the 200-day moving average. Shout out to that. Sorry, not the 200-day. Why did I think the 200-day? It pushed into the upper Bollinger Band, not into the 200-day. Anyway, shout out to, nice little spike on the stock, but I thought it was pushing into the 200-day, in which case it would have been a much more interesting stock. But right now, because of that, I'm gonna have to turn off on this. It's not the best name for me going forward. If it was at the 200-day, it would have been a much better name, much easier trade also. Let's go to LEN, Home Builders. LEN got below the most recent low that I was talking about yesterday after hours for you guys. The question was, how would it react below it? Would it stay under, or would it manage to get back above? Looks like it actually chopped around a lot around that level, turning out to be that level was going to be the VWAP today, most likely. So let's go check out if it actually played out like that. VWAP ended up at 112, and you can see how that level was exactly 112. Surprising how things like that work out sometimes, right? So today's VWAP just ended up being 112. It just chopped around this area. We closed at 112 also, I think, which just means, that level is a little important. So tomorrow or even next week, if we start actually trading under 112 on Lennar, and you are long on this position, you might want to be careful. But for the day trade, volume's gonna start dying down on this name. It didn't really do what I wanted it to do today, so the chances are it's not gonna do what I want it to do tomorrow. So sadly, all three of the names that reported earnings today pre-market are not really the ideal names for us to keep on watch for tomorrow. tomorrow for earnings day 2. However, the one name that's reporting earnings today after hours is a very good name and will give you a butterfly effect into some other categories at the same time with its own earnings report. It might move some semiconductor names, it might move some AI related names, it might move some of those Western Digital, SanDisk, and Seagate names, right? So it has a lot of implications of what type of sectors could move tomorrow based on this. It could even just give the little bit of a relief that the overall market basically needs based off of this earnings report. Slight move in Nvidia, slight move in Google, slight move in Apple, and that basically starts to move the rest of them along with it, right? So we'll see if Micron comes in and kind of helps the market out. However, tomorrow pre-market, here's a list of names. I'll just show you guys the calendar instead of my watch list because it's prettier. Tomorrow, list of names. Some of them have okay volume, some of them have shit volume. They're in some of them have decent ranges, some of them are in horrible ranges, but a good list of names nevertheless. If you don't have a watch list to begin with, if you are interested in day trading, you want to pick names that have volatility, names that have a catalyst to trade, names that are in play. So no better names that are in play other than the ones that report earnings for you. And here's a decent list of names actually: CarMax, Darden Restaurants, FactSet, Accenture, Cintas, CTAS, all of them. Even Birkenstock is a good one to keep an eye out for, even though the volume is not the greatest. It's a decent name to keep an eye out for, so keep an eye on these names in the pre-market. Sadly, the pre-market names usually have earnings conference calls during market hours, so make sure that you're doing your research and seeing that the ones that you're trading don't have a conference call during market hours, or if they do, at least tune into them so you don't get caught offside. Pretty simple, right? Tomorrow after hours, we got some big names on the board: Nike, FedEx. Those are some good names right there. KB Home, we already traded Lennar. That was the last earnings report on the home builder. Another one coming out tomorrow after hours. BlackBerry, BB, good name over there too. Good little Canadian name. And then to wrap off the week, we got Carnival Cruise Line wrapping the week off on the triple witching. So still some names on the board here, mainly Nike and FedEx tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for the final stream of the week, maybe even final stream of the year, where we wrap off with Nike and FDX, and then tune in back on January. I think I am going to take that vacation. I didn't plan on it, but now that Christmas is around the corner, and Christmas himself in the chat was mentioning that am I taking a vacation, I figured, you know what, yes, I will, because then I get to spend time with my mom, my family, whose birthday is also coming up. My mama's birthday is coming up, which is, yay, I get to spend more time with her. That's Thursday. You don't need the rest. Well, Thursday I'm streaming tomorrow, so you don't have to worry about it. But starting next week, I think we will take a nice little week off from the market, and we'll come back on January 5th. Yes, I'm seeing January 5th as the Monday. So 2 weeks off, basically. Get a nice little 2-week staycation from you guys, mainly from TH. Get a vacation from TH mainly. So that's a quick little overview of the earnings board. IPO today, we already talked about it briefly. The IPO was hot, super hot, opened up around $35 and just ripped to the north side. No more IPOs for the rest of the year. At least the ones I checked are not interesting. I'll keep checking on them to see if any good ones pop up. Econ calendar, we already talked about this really briefly. Tomorrow, CPI, that's the main event. That's going to be very important. You're making sure that if you're trading the QQQs, the S&P 500s, stay tuned to what happens at CPI at 8:30. Otherwise, you're gonna get caught offside. If CPI comes hot, there are chances the market doesn't really have the upside tomorrow at all, more downside on the market overall, and then Friday ends up being a little bit of a relief Friday instead of a free fall Friday. It's something that I've seen happen many times. Let's see if it plays out that way, but if CPI comes out flat, maybe we get a little bit of a bounce, and then Friday ends up being free fall Friday. But if CPI comes out really good, then tomorrow we keep going higher, and then Friday maybe also we keep going higher. So we'll see how it ends up setting up. Friday also has its own little important econ data such as PCE, so make sure that you're tuned in for that one at 8:32. But tomorrow mainly 8:30 pre-market, very important core consumer price index CPI is gonna come hit us in the face, and we're gonna see if it's gonna feel good or feel bad when it does hit us. A couple other names, as I mentioned to you guys already: weed sector and the defense sector. Weed sector because Trump is possibly going to be signing some legislation soon. So MSOS, TLRY, CGC, WEED on the Canadian side, weed. Some of the names over there potentially worth keeping an eye on. And then AVAV, RTX, LMT. These are your defense stocks in general. Keep an eye out for those, but the whole Venezuela thing playing out. Possible more turmoil from the Oracle CRDO. Bad news for the overall AI sector. Other names for Venezuela are also oil names. So XOM, USO, potentially some names to keep an eye out for as a sympathy trade for that. And then last but not least, I'm gonna wrap it up with Bitcoin. BTC USD sadly still very weak over here, trying to take out the last few days low. So if Bitcoin gets below 85k, I'm not sure that's gonna be really a bullish thing out there. So watching how Bitcoin reacts to the last 3 days low, and if BTC gets below that, I think IBIT below 48.20. What was it, 48.28? Let's just say 48.28 to 48.30. Keep it tight. Could give you a trade below that if Bitcoin starts to get below 85k. So watching for that one. Is Ethereum still blasting off? Ethereum pulled right back after that breakdown. So Ethereum's not blasting off, and potentially also worth watching and keeping on your watch list. With Bitcoin pulling back, potentially some weakness in MicroStrategy and in Coinbase also, and that seems to be true. So there's your little watch list for tomorrow. Make sure you tune in, and then we'll have some fun with Nike, FDX, and all other fun stuff. That's basically all she wrote. Looking over to see at the chats to see if there's anything else to talk about. Sadly, right now, the stream times are not full 1 hour lengths that I would like it to be. That's because we don't have a lot of names reporting earnings, right? Sadly, it's only like a couple names reporting earnings that are worth talking about. But once we get the earnings board back spinning again, which is very soon, you know, right around the new year, once the earnings board starts spinning up again, we'll have a lot more to talk about. And obviously Christmas is right around the corner. Time to enjoy some time with your family and friends. I appreciate every single one of you coming in, hitting the like, hitting the subscribe. Please go tune in. Well, that and you're lazy, well, screw you, dude. But no, spend some time with your friends. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace. Fade to black. God, that TH guy is so annoying, dude. I'm joking. I'm joking, TH. I love you. Good night, guys.